XAI just dropped Grok 4.5, and I want to be straight with you from the very first second, because the honest story here is way more interesting than the usual hype. Grok 4.5 is not the best coding AI in the world. It does not top the charts. On most of the serious coding benchmarks, Anthropic Fable 5 and OpenAI GPT 5.5 still beat it. So if you came here to hear that Elon Musk just crushed everyone, that is not what happened. What actually happened is stranger, and honestly, it might matter more. This is the coding model that SpaceX built using the exact tool it just bought, and it is cheap enough and fast enough to quietly change the math for a lot of developers. Let me break down exactly what Grok 4.5 is, what the real benchmarks say, and why the price tag is the actual headline. First, what is it? Grok 4.5 is XAI first model trained specifically for coding and for agents, the kind of AI that does not just answer a question, but actually goes and does multi-step technical work for you. It is built on their new 1.5 trillion parameter foundation, and here is the part that is genuinely wild. It was trained alongside Cursor. Cursor is the popular AI code editor, and SpaceX acquired it. So think about what that means. SpaceX now owns the coding tool, and it trained its coding model inside that tool, using the real workflows of real engineers. That is a level of vertical integration nobody else in this race has. It is available right now inside Grok, inside Cursor on every plan, and through the SpaceXAI console. Now let me give you the benchmarks straight, because this is where honesty matters, and I am going to label these clearly as reported and independently measured numbers, not marketing claims. On SWE Bench Pro, which tests real software engineering tasks, Grok 4.5 scores around 64.7%. That is genuinely solid. In some configurations, it edges out Anthropic Opus 4.8, which lands near 69% at its strongest settings, and it clearly beats older models, but it is not the leader because Fable 5 sits way out front at around 80%. On another tough benchmark, SWE, Grok comes in around 62%, again respectable, again sitting just behind GPT 5.5 and Fable 5 rather than ahead of them, so read the pattern carefully. Grok 4.5 is not winning the raw intelligence race. It is landing in that upper tier competitive with the big names, trading blows with Opus, but a clear step behind the two models everyone considers the frontier for coding, so if it loses on benchmarks, why is everyone talking about it? One word: price. This is the entire point of Grok 4.5, and it is what XAI built the whole model around. It is dramatically cheaper and faster than Fable 5 and GPT 5.5, and once you sit with that, the benchmark gap starts to look very different, because think about how coding AI actually gets used in the real world. You are not running one perfect query, you are firing off hundreds, sometimes thousands of calls, agents, looping, retrying, refactoring, testing. In that world, a model that is 90% as good, but a fraction of the cost does not just compete, it can completely win on total value. There is a real argument going around right now that Grok 4.5 is so cheap compared to the frontier models that the benchmark gap may simply not matter for most day-to-day work. That is the bet. Frontier enough intelligence, at leading speed, at a price that makes you stop rationing your AI usage. And this is where the word agents really matters, because it is not just a buzzword here. An agent is an AI that works in a loop. It reads your code, tries a change, runs the tests, sees what broke, fixes it, and repeats, sometimes dozens of times, to finish a single real task. Every one of those steps is a separate call to the model. So with an agent, cost and speed are not a minor detail, they are the whole game. A model that is a little bit smarter but several times more expensive and slower can actually get beaten in practice by a cheaper, faster one that just takes a couple more loops to reach the same answer. That is exactly the lane Grok 4.5 was built for. It is not trying to win the single hardest question on a test, it is trying to be the model you let run all day on agentic workflows without your bill exploding. When you frame it that way, being a step behind on a benchmark but a big step ahead on cost per task is not a weakness. It is a deliberate and honestly pretty smart strategic choice. And this is where the SpaceX and Cursor connection stops being a fun trivia fact and becomes the actual strategy. Most AI labs train a model and then hope developers plug it into their editor. XAI did it the other way around. They own the editor Cursor, they trained the model inside it on real engineering work, and now they can offer that model to every Cursor user on every plan instantly as a first-class citizen. That is a distribution and cost advantage that is very hard to copy if you do not already own the tool developers live and all day. It turns coding AI from a benchmark contest into a vertically integrated product play, and that is a very Elon Musk way to attack a market. Now let me be honest about the caveats, because hype without them is just an ad. First, benchmarks are benchmarks. These numbers, even the independent ones, are snapshots on specific tests, and your real-world results depend heavily on what you are actually building. Second, cheap and fast is a fantastic pitch, but if your work genuinely needs the absolute strongest reasoning, the top-of-the-line coding quality, then Fable 5 and GPT 5.5 still lead, and for some tasks that gap is worth paying for. Grok 4.5 is not claiming to be the smartest. It is claiming to be the best value, and those are two very different claims. And third, this space is moving so fast that today best value model can be leapfrogged in a matter of weeks. So treat any of this as a snapshot of one specific week, not a permanent ranking. But step back and look at the bigger picture, because it is a real shift. For the last couple of years, the coding AI race has been an arms race for the highest benchmark score, no matter the cost. Grok 4.5 is the clearest sign yet that the game is changing, that the next battle is not just who is smartest, but who gives you frontier-level help at a price you can actually run at scale, all day, without watching a meter. That XAI owning Cursor, training Grok inside it, and pricing it to undercut the giants, that is a very deliberate move to win on value instead of on the leaderboard. And for developers, more genuinely capable options, at lower prices, competing hard against each other. That is just good news. So here is what I would actually do. If you already use Cursor, Grok 4.5 is right there on your plan, so try it on a real task, something with a few moving parts, and pay attention not just to whether it gets it right, but how fast and how cheap it feels compared to what you were using before. That side-by-side is the fastest way to feel whether the value pitch is real for your work. If this kind of clear, no-hype breakdown of every major AI drop is useful to you, subscribe, because at the pace this is all moving, there is always another one coming, and I will keep telling you the honest version, wins and losses and all.